We went to the field with the dogs and Basil ran through a large mud puddle. So I'm rinsing all of the mud off of her before I put any shampoo on her because that would just waste the shampoo. And then I'm just trying to saturate her coat before I turn the nozzle so the shampoo starts coming through. And again, that's just helping it penetrate the coat better. So I'm using a car washing nozzle to first apply the shampoo. I only put a little bit in there and the nozzle mixes it with the water for me, so it applies it a bit more concentrated to her coat all over, and then I'll go in with the recirculator later. I'm just working it all through. I'm getting towards the end where it's just clear water running through, so I just rinse that out. So I'm making sure I get all the shampoo out of the nozzle before moving on to my recirculator. I had stopped up the tub so that I can make sure Basil gets as clean as possible with just one bath. She was only done a week ago, so I can definitely get away with one bath, even though she was muddy since I rinsed it first. So I'm just making sure that everything is cleaned thoroughly, starting to get her ears wet a bit with the recirculator, but I'm gonna bottle wash her head. She really doesn't like getting her ears washed or blow dried, so it's just easier to do most of it with a bottle. I also like to bottle wash because it's a bit more concentrated, and the ears especially just get so greasy even after only a week. So that really helps break up all of that oil that's gathered around the ear. Now I'm gonna rinse her starting at her head so that everything just flows down her body. She, again, doesn't like getting her head messed with very much. So I try to get that out of the way. Try to rinse everything down. I'm not really trying to rough up her coat too much. I like to put the nozzle right up against her so that it just kind of floods the coat so that all of that shampoo is getting out and away from the skin. I'm gonna give her a kiss, tell her she's being a good girl. Just trying to make sure I get all of the shampoo out of her. I don't want any left in her coat. And now I'm gonna put some conditioner in the nozzle. I'm gonna apply it to her driest areas first, which for her is her haunches, her pants, her tail, and her neck hair. And then after I've saturated those areas pretty well and the rest of her feathers, I'll use the rest all over her body. Here I'm trying to make sure I get all of it out of the nozzle again. And then I'm going to use the recirculator to just make sure I got everything evenly coated. Her hair's been feeling pretty dry since we turned on the heat, so I decided to put a little conditioner straight on some of her really dry ends, but even that didn't feel like I was getting all of the hair because she's slowly growing her coat back in, so it's a little thicker at the base. So I decided to dilute some in a bottle, but still make it pretty strong so I could make sure it penetrated all the way through her ends. And then after I use up the rest of the bottle, I'm gonna just brush through her coat. I'm just using like a tangle teaser brush. It's really to just kind of massage in the conditioner, detangle a little bit. Kind of just a time to give Basil a little bit of a massage. And then I'm just gonna rinse her again, like kind of just trying to rinse everything down, flooding the coat. Since I used a bit of extra conditioner, it takes me a while to get it all rinsed today, but just wanted to make sure she was nice and hydrated since she's been itching a little bit too. I really want to make sure I don't leave any conditioner in the coat. Sometimes that can cause itching, especially if it's not a leave-in, which this one isn't. This is my husband coming in. He's also my cameraman and editor because that is what he does for a living. So it works out great for me. And he's coming to check on me and clean off my lens. I'm unclogging the tub. She's not shedding too much right now, but enough to clog up my very small drain catch. I make sure I wring everything out as much as I can with my hands. I'm not really trying to rough up the coat too much. Then I go in with an Artero. It's one of their chamois. It's an absorbent towel. I use that to wring out all of her hair as much as I can. It just really helps cut down on drying time and on how many actual towels you have to use and launder, because that one you don't really have to wash. I just hang it to dry. Other people like to get them damp before they use them and they keep them damp. I prefer to use them dry and then let them air dry because I feel like they're most absorbent that way, but do what you will. And then I always have a towel ready to go on the table for her. This is her favorite part, is getting out of the tub and running over to the table. I don't have to tell her to get up there. It's automatic for her to hop up. She's very excited to be up there. I like to let her shake off as much of the water as she can. It helps break up the coat a bit. And then I'll go over her with a towel again. I did that off camera. And then I put cotton in her ears because she really doesn't like the blow dryer around her ears and head. So I kind of try to dry that area a bit first, get most of it out of the way, and then I don't fully dry it so that it can kind of air dry a bit while I do the rest of her, so that it limits how long I have to have the actual dryer on that area. I'm always trying to dry everything to lay flat and down. So here you can see this area, she's had problems with cowlicks in the past before. So I really try to blow dry that area first and make sure it lays nice and flat. Her whole top line, really, I try to get that done first after her head, because that area is so important for the outline. So I'm just using my brush and my hands to kind of break up the coat, move her skin around a bit to make sure I'm getting all of the areas. She is very good for this process, but it's really not her favorite. So when she wants to move around on the table, I try to blow dry around her, but still trying to work on the areas that I need to. So she wants to sit right now, and I kind of did her top line pretty well, so I'm just going to work on her front legs and her chest hair. I do my best to make sure that each area is dry before I move on to another area. I was a bit lazy this day, and I ended up paying for it later. I know most of her I try to blow dry down, but her chest I do blow dry up a bit. She doesn't have very much hair, so it just gives it a little more volume. My husband Jack came down to ask me about ordering pizza and him going to pick it up. So I'm pretty excited about that. Now I've got pizza to look forward to after this. Here I'm kind of moving around a bit. I'm trying to wick off some of the excess water from this whole area, from the surface of her coat, but generally speaking I am still trying to dry an area before I leave it a bit. Again, I said I was being lazy this day. Although this side of her I did better on, about making sure it was fully dry before I moved on to the other area. I took a break, and so before I started blow drying Basil, I just brushed everything back out, made sure everything was laying the way that I wanted it to, and then I just continued blow drying her other side, trying to get everything to lay flat, trying to make sure that it's getting dry all the way down to her skin, not just the ends of her hair. Those are the spots that will creep back out later and make the hair go all wavy or curl in other directions, which is what ended up happening to me. I didn't spend enough time right here, and it ended up curling up and away, and I had to try and use a flat iron to fix it later before we went to handling class. Here I'm just trying to fluff out her tail a bit. She blew her coat a few months ago, and we're slowly starting to get some volume back in, but her tail I like blow drying the opposite direction again to add some volume to it. Here I've got her mostly dry, and the towel is pretty wet, so I remove the towel so that I can make sure everything else can fully dry now. Especially like her pads and stuff. I am going to trim her feet after this, although I didn't that on camera today. I wanted to make sure that her feet were completely dry before I did that, so I removed the towel because it is damp and her feet will keep getting wet if I leave it on there now. So now I'm just going over her coat with my hands, feeling where any damp spots are, and then I remove her cotton balls, and she is all ready to get off the table. So this is her all finished from her bath and blowout and getting all brushed and combed.